don't follow somebody else's path. And social media is a terrible, terrible, terrible influence for that, because you're a high school athlete that's trying to navigate their own, but then you see your buddy in class or your teammate or your competitor on the other club verbally committing or signing or whatever. And that's not your journey. It's not your path. You cannot compare yourself to somebody else's path. It's so unique. It is so individualized, and you have to remember that. And that's really, really hard when you're talking to a 14, 15, 16-year-old high school kid.
I have to ask you whether you or someone close to you, have they ever had their mental health impacted throughout your playing career?
I'd run out of fingers with how many teammates past that went through some major mental health struggles. Athletes that I coached in the last 7 years, I saw myself in so many of the athletes, the soccer players that I was coaching. Like, okay, red flag moment. Let's try and fix this or figure out a solution now before it becomes something serious. And that's, I think, something that my former players appreciated, was the relatability aspect. It was never uncomfortable to talk about those things because I was doing the same thing that they were not.
What's your advice to them as they start this journey?
Stay true to yourself and have fun while you're doing it.
Back for season 2, and I am super excited here. It's Coach Tony, Fighting for Overtime podcast. Make sure you're following at Fighting for Overtime on Instagram, on TikTok, and the all new YouTube page. Now, I couldn't be more excited because I tell you people all the time, I don't like to take everybody that everybody knows. I like to take the people that people should know, okay, and that we can highlight them and what they do. And this specific guest is perfect for this. We're going to talk to Mackenzie Bellows-Schissel, national scout, former NCAA Division I athlete and coach. Let me just give you some of her accolades real quick, okay? She's a former Division II head women's soccer coach at Quincy University, Illinois. In her first 2 seasons as head coach at Quincy, Mackenzie got the Hawks to the brink of the GLVC tournament, coming within 1 win of qualification. Also, her leadership has helped secure 2 all GLVC honors for 2 players, further solidifying her impact on the program. She also attended Jackson State University, where she played NCAA Division I soccer as a midfielder. And people tell you, man, when you're a midfielder, you don't get no breaks. Okay, you're playing offense and defense all the way up and down, up and down the field. Over her collegiate career, she's played 76 games, started 69, finished with 8 goals, 14 assists, and logging over 4,500 minutes. And last but not least, after graduating with a bachelor's in physical education, she transitioned to the coaching, beginning as a student assistant coach at Jacksonville State, and her coaching journey continued as a graduate assistant at William Woods University, where she played a crucial role in leading the Owls to a conference championship with 11-6-4 record. And in 2019, she joined Quincy U as a graduate assistant and was later promoted to full-time coach in 2021 while pursuing her master's degree in education. And now she is a national college scout for Scout U, helping our youth navigate their next steps in their playing journey. Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction, but I'm super, super happy to be here. The only person that brags about me that much is my mom, so that felt nice.
Hey, well, I'll take the place of mom tonight. How's that? Because I say this all the time. In this world and mantra of social media, everybody always jumps to the celebrities and the superstars. And whether it's right or wrong, I always say, listen, I like them, but they really don't need my support. Like they're self-funded. What about the little people here that doing God's work and are not being given that notoriety? So that's why you're here. And you're perfect for this program because you're helping these youth athletes get to that next step, aren't you?
Trying my best to. It's a tricky world we're in right now with sports, but fun journey to be on.
Yeah, it really is. And obviously, thank you for coming on and sharing these experiences, because we've been talking about this. A lot of this podcast, the reason why I started it was, number one, it's kind of like a self-reflection of a lot of the bad moments that I dealt with. And then obviously a lot of the good moments when I get my former players on and get that connection and that bond. But, you're going right into recruiting. And it's one of those subjects that I'm telling you, now that you're doing it for Scout U. And I know just from dealing with the players that were going into it, nobody really knows what's involved, what to expect. And even the smallest things can really trump you a little bit and take you off somebody's list. So could you walk us, number one, through your career path? Like, how did you go from being an athlete to a coach and then stumble across being a recruiter now?
No, it's been quite the journey. It's taken so many turns, but where I am now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I'm originally from Canada. So my recruiting journey was a little bit unorthodox compared to the typical American youth athlete, but started, playing competitive soccer super young, knew that I wanted to play at the college level, before high school. So that's really where my recruiting journey started. Went to a bunch of tournaments in the States with my team, got a following back then. And I say back then because I'm old now. 15 years ago, you had to be seen in person to get recruited. There wasn't Twitter and your highlight reel and stuff like that. You just got a following from playing. Now it's evolved so much, but we'll talk about that later. But that's how my recruiting journey started. I ended up at Jacksonville State University, which was a perfect fit for me. Looking back at it now, no regrets, no changes. How I navigated my process could have been different, but loved my experience there. I got to play a lot. I got a great education. I still am connected with a lot of my professors that I had, which was really cool. Pursued the route of teaching. So graduated, moved back home to Canada, spent about 8 months in my parents' basement. And I was like, change this a little bit. So I applied to every single open graduate assistant position in the soccer world in the US. Got an interview and got the job at William Woods. And that's kind of where it kicked off. And I knew that, coaching was the career path for me. So that's kind of where it started. I knew that the position at Quincy University was opening up, made the transition up there, quickly got promoted to full-time assistant. And then, later on as the head coach. And my coaching journey as a head coach you learn a lot about yourself first week, but it was amazing. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. My first year, it was obviously a building year for my own program, trying to put, my name on it, which was awesome. It wasn't a big transition for the girls because they knew me. Year 2, my husband and I found out we were having a baby. So I was pregnant the entire season. My due date was on the very last weekend of our conference schedule. So I made it all through, some ups and downs in between that season. And then 2024 was my last season as a head coach. And I knew, obviously, probably when I found out I was having a baby, that maybe this schedule and chaotic environment maybe wasn't the best for my family. My husband is also a college coach as well, so navigating coaching schedules was nuts. So I made the decision, and I'm sure a lot of parents can relate to this when they're listening, that your priorities change a lot when you have kids. Priorities changed, and I, stepped into the best role that I could have, which is where I am now as a college scout with Scout U, and really helping young athletes and their families with the ever-changing recruiting process. So long-winded answer to your question, but that's my career path in a nutshell.
No, listen, I love it because it hits on, number one, how you came up, and number two, how you transitioned from athlete to coach to parent. It's true. Your priorities shift so much. I had 3 kids of my own. Luckily, I made it through, right? They're 18, 20, and 25. So my last one right now is getting ready to graduate high school. So I'm kind of over that hump a little bit. And then you just say your husband's a coach too? I don't know how you guys do it.
He coaches baseball. So it was nice that we had opposite seasons, but at the same time, it's a year-round thing that we're doing. And so we did 1 full year of having a newborn baby with fall and, spring baseball. And I was like, holy smokes, I know this is doable, but at what expense? At what cost?
Right. No, 100%. No, I get it. Again, we're talking to Mackenzie Bellows-Schissel. Make sure you follow her on TikTok or Instagram. You can follow her at MAC_SCHISSEL on TikTok, and at Mackenzie, MACKENZIE Scout U on IG. I'm telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. That's how I found her. She's always dropping stuff every single day. And speaking of what you're dropping, let's get right into the recruitment aspect, because I know for a fact, as being a coach and coaching 16, 17-year-old kids and what they're looking for as far as future. Number one, what they're being told as far as what reality is. But one of the most important things is the mistakes that they make. And indirectly, unfortunately, because they just don't know. In your eye, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen high school athletes make it when it comes to trying to be recruited?
I think the biggest one is probably just the lack of awareness or understanding of the college athletics landscape. It doesn't matter which sport you play. It's about how different each level is and how you fit in realistically to those divisions. Now, obviously, every kid is going to grow up having that D1 dream. There's a small percentage of kids that are going to play Division I athletics. So there needs to be some other pathway, and having that understanding and knowledge about those different levels and what comes with them is a big mistake of athletes and their families, of not doing that sort of research and not considering other opportunities, because that's exactly what they are. Whether it's above your playing ability or below, you want to maximize your opportunities. But if you're, tunnel vision on one, your opportunities are gone. So it's being open-minded. It's being willing to learn, put in that time to actually make sure that it's something that coincides with your needs instead of just the wants of the Division I, bright, shiny lights, all that kind of stuff. It really has to hit those boxes that you need as a student athlete. So I think that's a big mistake, is just the lack of understanding of really what that whole journey is about.
I've seen it. And like you said, it's like that. I hate to say pipe dream, but the percentages of Division I. I mean, listen, you were in Division I. You get it. And you know how lucky and blessed you were, but you also know how hard you work in order to get there. And that's the thing. I remember so many different stories. So many parents come to me as a coach, like, daughter's going to be Division I and my daughter's going to go. I'm like, okay, I understand, but she's also not training. She's also not doing private workouts. You expect her to show up 2 times a week and she's going to be Division I. It's not going to happen. You haven't even seen that other element. So you make a great point, because a lot of kids are not prepared for what's next. And speaking of that, I'm very hard on my kids. And I'm kids. I say it to everybody. As a coach, everybody's my kid. When I see them, it's like, look, man, behavior, what you're doing on and off the field, what you're doing on weekends, what you're doing off the soccer field, off the softball field, whatever it is, everything's a presentation of yourself. So that being said, what sets a great candidate apart in your eyes, not just on paper, but how they actually present themselves?
Totally hit it spot on when you first said it. What they desire, their passion, do they want it? What is that want? And it's pretty easy to tell as a coach when you are recruiting somebody. Do they talk about their sport with enthusiasm, with excitement, or is it just another thing that they go to every week? Are you only going to your required events like practice and games? If you are, that's not good enough. You should be watching the game on TV. You should be doing individual skills in your basement, anything that is helping you progress forward to be the best athlete, soccer player, softball player, whatever that you can be, is really easy to, notice. Coaches are looking at player A or player B. It's all about that passion, the desire. And I learned that pretty early as a youth athlete is, unfortunately, you can't share your passion with other people. You have it or you don't. And it's very irritating when you have those players on your team that aren't as passionate as you, but you need to put that into other actions and make it, an environment that is a passionate environment. But that is something that sets those mediocre athletes apart from the excellent and great athletes, is the passion and the desire that they have. And that honestly has been the biggest difference that I've seen as a, coach, college coach recruiting, and now as a college scout helping kids with their process. Is the passion is a big part of it. You have to want it.
You can't fabricate passion, man. You can't fake passion. I've said all the time, like, even with doing kind of like what I do, it's like, if I'm just going through the motions, you're gonna be able to tell, right? Anybody, like, I'm passionate about this because I love hearing stories and I love seeing success stories. I love trying to help. And the thing that a lot of people think is you hit the nail on the head when you said, are you just showing up? Oh, I got to go to practice. Like, I used to say to kids, listen, if you have to get up and you're like, oh, I have to go to the soccer field, you don't want to play. You honestly don't want it. It's hard because we talk about teenagers and different animal, especially at 15, 16, 17 years old. But I know you drop a lot of knowledge on TikTok when you talk about some of your videos about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And let me ask you this, like, what are your absolute one or two, like, do nots as a high school athlete? Like, there's high school athletes listening right now, and they want to be recruited, and they want to go to the school of their choice, at least put the effort in to get there. What are the absolute do nots that they cannot do?
The big one for me is always going to be social media. Do not post things on social media that you wouldn't want your grandma seeing. That's just point blank, period. Because just like my mom always told me, maybe you're not the one doing it, but if you're involved and perceived like you are, that ruins a lot of reputation, relationships, things like that. That's a big no for me. The second one that I think is up there with that is don't follow somebody else's path. And social media is a terrible, terrible, terrible influence for that, because you're a high school athlete that's trying to navigate their own, but then you see your buddy in class or your teammate or your competitor on the other club verbally committing or signing or whatever. And that's not your journey. It's not your path. You cannot compare yourself to somebody else's path. It's so unique. It is so individualized, and you have to remember that. And that's really, really hard when you're talking to a 14, 15, 16-year-old high school kid that is constantly pressured and put in front of everything that you see on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is. So don't follow anybody else's path than your own. And that includes your parents' path that they think is best for you as well. It has to have some sort of influence of yourself in it, because you're the one that's going to do it. You're going to be in that classroom. You're going to be on that field. So always follow your own path. Don't follow somebody else's.
I love that answer. You have no idea how much I love that answer, especially what you said about follow your path. That's not necessarily what your parents want you to follow, right? Because that's a huge topic that I've covered on this program many a times. Is, you know, the parental pressure that parents are putting on these kids. Like I've so many stories about kids that were pushed. They come to me crying. They didn't want to be there, but mom or dad kept pushing them because they wanted them there, and they were kind of living out their dreams through them. And it is so crazy. We could do a whole nother episode on that, but again, I love that answer. It was fantastic. Again, this is the Fighting for Overtime podcast. I'm Coach Tony, your host, and again with me is Mackenzie Bellows-Schissel. She is a national scout, former D1 athlete and D2 coach. She scouts for Scout U, and again, you can follow her on TikTok and Instagram at MAC_Schissel. That's CHISSEL, and at Mackenzie Scout U on Instagram. Now, I want to touch on a little bit about the youth sports and mental health topics, because we just talked about parents and you know, again, I'm not saying all parents are bad. We see those scenarios play out so many times, and I feel like it's getting worse and not better. And I'm not sure if it's because of the money now that's being invested as a parent in their child. So many different things. We can get into that. But for the years, the world of youth sports has just completely changed, from elementary to a high school level to a college level. It's so many. I mean, God, we could spend a whole episode on NIL, right? But what would you say overall has been the biggest change to date in your mind throughout this journey from youth to collegiate level?
I think one of the biggest changes that I've noticed, even from my youth playing days to now, the youth world of sports, is the pressure to perform. And that's obviously put on by parents, coaches, social media, things like that. You know, I live in Quincy, Illinois. It's a population of 45,000. It's not huge. There are, I don't know, 8 different 10U travel baseball teams here. There's all of these facilities. They're like, what? Like, it's just, you don't just play for fun anymore. Like, I don't know. And not that my path of youth sports was for fun, because it was in my own way. I was very competitive, but I was never felt like I had to be the best, or I had to do 10 more hours of training per week to be better and all of that kind of stuff. And I think the competition aspect plays a big part into it when not even within your league or your club or whatever, but everybody else that's doing the same thing that you are. And it's really easy to get distracted from why you're playing, like because you love it, to because you have to get better and you have to improve and you have to have all these accolades and things like that. At the end of the day, if you don't love it, then why are you doing it? That's a lot of time to dedicate every day, every week to something that isn't filling your cup. It's true for college athletes as well. It's a job at some places. And if it's not fulfilling, then why are you doing it? So I think that's been one of the biggest changes that I've seen at the youth level, even as young as 6 years old, is the pressure to perform. But what are you performing for?
Pressure to perform. And you know, it's funny based on that topic when you mentioned about all the 10U teams, and I see what you think, because again, we talked about your husband being a coach and you being a coach, and everything's all year round. Like when I grew up, I played 3 sports. I played baseball and I got a pair of socks, a shirt, and a hat. Okay. And I played for 3 months, and then I went to soccer, then I went to basketball, right? So now everything is a full year round sport. But the thing is, it's all travel. One of the things we got away from was the whole intramural world, where not every kid has to be a travel player. But unfortunately, parental pressure, I feel, is pushing these kids to the travel program. And then all these intramural programs are suffering. And now, like you said, there's no fun, right?
It's changed so much, and I can't imagine the stress that parents have now too. Which travel team do I need to put my 8-year-old in? Like,
Oh,
maybe play rec or community, make some friends of your own while you're at it. I don't know. Like, who wants
it's
to spend
crazy.
every weekend in a hotel?
$3,000 weekend every weekend. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, I'm going Friday. I got to pay for meals, hotel stays. Like, and guess what? Here's the worst part. Some kids don't even get to play. Crazy. So it is just on another level right now. But you're right. The parental pressure. Now, you mentioned obviously that your path was different because
Yeah.
listen, you did go D1 and you did enjoy what you were doing. But do you feel in your journey that youth sports has become too demanding during your time as a D1 player? Like maybe not you specifically, but too demanding, or do you feel like no, that's just what you have to do in order to make it?
I think if you have a dream and a clear vision of what you want to do and how to get there, you're going to want to do that extra work. You're going to want to put in that effort to get there. And you're going to understand the realities of it. I do think that, I played at a mid-major. It wasn't anything special. It was a Division I program. We worked really hard. We trained every single day. We had lifts in the morning. You go to class, you go to practice, you watch film, you have study hall, and then you go to bed and do it all over again. And then also try and be a college kid. That's what I signed up for. That's what I wanted. Now, I did have quite a few girls on my club team in Calgary who we had 8 girls out of 16 go down to the States to play, mostly at Division I programs. A lot of the others experienced that burnout and realized that they didn't want to put in that sort of commitment at a Division I level that you were going to get. But now I think youth athletes these days might be experiencing that burnout a little bit sooner than they should, because youth coaches, high school coaches, they're implementing the workload of a college athlete, and kids aren't ready for that yet. Sure, you need to kind of accustom yourself to expectations and understand what you're going to get yourself into, but wait until your freshman year when you get there in the weight room for the first time and you're like, holy smokes, this is it. But don't do it when you're 14 and you're still trying to enjoy the game. So I do think the burnout is there, and it's starting earlier. I don't think I experienced it because I think I was well prepared, and knew what you're never going to fully know what to expect, but I think I had a good understanding, and I was ready to adapt.
It's a big word. I love pivot. I love adapt. Like they're two of my favorite words, man. Like because it makes you grow as an individual. You have to have the ability in so many different situations to be able to adapt or pivot. My favorite podcast is the Pivot Podcast. I love Ryan Clark's show because I love what he all about and what he stands for, and the way he breaks things down. And I love that word. And you mentioned burnout, and we've already mentioned parental pressure, and a lot of that coincides with that entire mental health aspect. Unfortunately, we just saw another player take his own life. I have to ask you, are you or someone close to you, have they ever had their mental health impacted throughout your playing career? Maybe somebody that you weren't extremely close to, but you saw from a distance, or maybe even yourself going through your journey as a Division I player?
I'd run out of fingers with how many teammates past that went through some major mental health struggles, athletes that I coached in the last, 7 years. And it's so unfortunate to see somebody so talented and brave and with so much potential go through something that nobody else can understand. And reflecting back on my own college career, at the time, did I think I was struggling? No, I was invincible. I was a college athlete. I was, doing the thing. Looking back, there were times that I was struggling. And most of those times revolved around injury. When, you're stuck on the sidelines and you don't think that you have a place on the team, you're alienated, you're on an island, nobody understands what you're going through. That's hard. And it's hard to talk about to maybe your roommate who's playing 90 minutes every game and you are stuck on the sidelines wearing sunglasses because you have a concussion, things like that. During the time that it's happening, you're like, okay, I'm injured, it's fine. But then 10 years later, when I'm a grown ass adult, I'm like, oh my goodness, I probably needed to talk to somebody about that. At the time, no, I wasn't. But now, yes, 100%. And I reflected more on my playing times as a college coach than I did while I was a player, because I saw myself in so many of the athletes, the soccer players that I was coaching. Like, okay, red flag moment. Let's try and, fix this or figure out a solution now before it becomes something serious. And that's, I think, something that my former players appreciated, was the relatability aspect. It was never uncomfortable to talk about those things because I was doing the same thing that they were, not too long ago. But having somebody like a coach, like an authority figure, something like that is comfortable talking about those things to make sure that you do have the resources, the help, the guidance that you need, is really important. Even if it is, hey, take the next week off, reset, recoup, go home, whatever it is. I think that needs to be more attention brought onto that, just being a human type thing. But man, the number of former teammates and former athletes I've coached, it could go on for a long time, that have really battled with some struggles and just didn't have the help that they needed.
I agree with you on so many things that you said. It's a shame, and it just keeps getting worse. Something that affected me was last year. Now, I started this podcast in 2023. I actually took a year off, in full transparency, because I had a lot of really bad things happen to me as a coach and to my kids, and held them in for a long time. And then I brought them all out, and I started to get really angry, and it really started to affect me emotionally. And I was like, you know what? I need to take a step back. I didn't know this was going to happen. Like you said, like back then it was like fine. But when I start really looking back, I'm like, wow, listen, I see a therapist every month. I love her to death. She's amazing. So yeah, it's unfortunate that it keeps spiraling to this. Again, it's just going to continue to, like you said, we kind of have to, if you're a coach, you really have to keep a close eye on your kids, man. Like seriously, it's not just showing up anymore. It's not just saying, playing a part. It's really, you said relatable. That's a really big word. I coached 8 to 17-year-old girls, and it's not simple. It's not easy because number one, they're going through so much more emotionally than guys are. Simple. I had my daughter was on my team. Like I get it. Letting them know that they had somebody to kind of like relate, because I wasn't that far removed. Like I was the younger coach. I was always, I was still listening to hip hop. I was listening to stuff that they were listening to. So I was like, the kids were always like, Taylor, man, it must be so cool having Coach Tony as your dad. She was like, listen,
no,
no, you do not want to be Coach Tony's kid. I need report cards. I was hard because I knew I didn't want them to be like me. You know what I mean? Like when I was growing up. So I'm going to answer a couple in-depth questions here. I really like to, when I bring my guests on, I really like to study, and I really like to go back. And this goes back at, probably a few years and different publications that you've been interviewed in. And one of your quotes specifically was 15 years ago when I was going through my own recruiting process in Calgary, my family didn't have much guidance and we weren't exactly sure how to navigate it. If I knew what I know now about NCAA recruitment, it may have looked a little different for me. What would be different for you? Basically, you knew then what you know now.
So I was the person that I just said, do not be, don't follow somebody else's path. Grew up in Calgary, Alberta. Soccer's huge there. Unknown fact, apparently we just hockey and all that kind of stuff, but soccer's very popular. And the older age group, couple age groups older than me in the same club that I was playing for, they all went down to Division I schools, and quite big ones as well. UNC, Duke, Rutgers, like some very reputable women's soccer programs. So that's all I really knew. That's all I really understood, were these girls playing at these big time schools coming from Calgary. When we were going to these tournaments and showcases down to the US, we probably went to about 3 or 4 a year. So when you're saying those 3 grand weekends add up, they definitely added up. And my dad came to every single tournament. He was kind of the guy on the sidelines that had the team brochure and all that kind of stuff. But even the parents on the team, and my dad included, our coaching staff, we didn't understand the complexities of college sports in the US, because in Canada, it is not the same. It is not even close, and it will never be as close. So we only knew what we heard of. And at that time, it was Division I athletics. What was Division II? What was Division III? Didn't even know NAIA existed. What in the heck is junior college? No idea. And the ignorance that I had with the Division I or bust mentality was very real. And I did have multiple offers from different divisions, and I didn't consider them because it wasn't what I knew. And that was sheer ignorance, because there are plenty of fantastic opportunities out there at many different divisions that could have been real opportunities for me. In retrospect, I don't regret where I ended up. I think it was the perfect place for me. I had a fantastic experience. Even through my recruiting journey, I took all of my official visits across the country. It was a great experience. But even just that, like, okay, you get on a plane, you get off in some state, you go tour a school, meet with the coach. Okay, cool. But like, I had no idea what to actually expect or what was going to happen or anything like that. So the lack of knowledge and know-how, I think, really kind of bit us in the butt with just the amount of opportunities that maybe were missed out on, that could have been something realistic for me, just because we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea. And now, 15 years later, if I was going through this process now, holy moly, it would be so different. It would be very different. And it's crazy how much has changed in that, seems like a short amount of time, but it's not. But it's a crazy world to navigate now if you aren't kind of fully invested in learning everything about it and having those resources to fully understand. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference between when I reflect back now to my own process. If I knew just a little bit about something I knew or learned about today, that would have made a big difference in my recruiting path 15 years ago.
It's why you have to contact Mackenzie, man. Her DMs are open. She says it all the time. Send me a DM. Seriously, because just said so many things that we don't know. And I will say this. I love what you said about you saying sheer ignorance about saying it's got to be Division I or bust. Because I told a story last year about my assistant coach, whose daughter's fantastic soccer player. And she was the one girl who didn't jump ship and didn't go to that ECNL program, didn't go to that junior college collegiate program. She stayed in her township on her travel team, and she got a Division II offer. She loved it. She's happy. And I'm like, look, you don't always have to go that route. But most important thing is she's happy and she loves it. So I love that you said that, because not everybody will believe that. But coming from somebody who's actually gone through and played that means a lot. Now, I did an interview with WGEM, and one of your quotes, I love this, said, I coach because soccer has impacted my life in so many ways and has given me amazing opportunities, the biggest one being my job. Coaching allows me to give back to the game and share my love and passion for soccer with my team and give young players the same opportunities and experiences that I had. Being able to impact young lives through the sport of soccer is one of the most rewarding experiences, and I will be forever grateful for the opportunities that soccer has given to me. My question to you would be, Can you tell me a story of someone you personally impacted as a coach?
It's hard to think back and pick one specifically, but early on in my path as a college coach, I started as a graduate assistant. And when you're a GA, you are the between, the team and the coach, because you're not far removed from those girls, but you're not on the same level as the top dog head coach. It's somewhere in between. So you establish more personal connections with some of these players. And I was really fortunate enough to go through my entire, tenureship as a graduate assistant all the way to a head coach with some of the same girls that started with me. And it was strange, it was fun, it was crazy, all in between. But one specifically was a girl who came down to us from Chicago. She was committed to a Division I school. There was a coaching change. The new coach decided to drop her from the recruiting board, which happens. So she opened up her recruitment and found a home in Quincy at Quincy University. I was a first year GA when she was a freshman. And by the time she graduated, that was my first year as a head coach. And the full circle moment was insane to me. It still doesn't make sense to this day, but the different paths that she took in her own career path as a student athlete to now what she does for work, the transformation that you see in some of these young athletes, and this one specifically, is so incredibly honorable to watch. She started out very a typical freshman, away from home, having a lot of fun, all of that kind of stuff. Full-rounded college experience. I get it, and like I told all of them, been there, done that. Any excuse you're trying to use, I've already used it. So you better just fess up now. So it was nice to see the learning experiences that she had, but how I was able to kind of play a role in that. And this is everything to do with this is completely away from the soccer part of college coaching. It was just the personal relationship that I was able to have with her and help her kind of navigate these ins and outs of just the struggles of being away from home, being a student athlete, studying, having friends away from home, like just all of these kind of things, and help guide her through that. And then when she was able to graduate, that was my first year as a head coach. So we kind of grew up together. It was crazy that I was able to do something like that, but to still be in contact with a former player like that, and now she's pursuing a master's degree and becoming a real adult and things like that. It's really cool, and those are moments that I'm sure most coaches are going to remember. Then the wins and the goals and all of that kind of stuff. It's those types of relationships. That's a big one for me, is kind of just seeing that progression and the smallest impact that I had on her kind of develop into something much bigger.
I love it. Always said it's all about memories and moments. That was always my biggest speech to my kids. I'm like, look, we can win 1,000 trophies and medals, but the thing is, what are you going to remember more? That when they put that medal around your neck, or that special moment or memory that you had? I had more memories and moments from losses than I had from wins, right? And that's what it's about. That's that bond, man, that I'll never, ever be able to get rid of. It's just been fantastic. And speaking of bonds, I have to ask you from a quote from a Sidelines article, and it brings to light something that's going on right now. And you said, I believe the biggest misconception is that female athletes need to be treated and trained differently than male athletes. The desire for athletic excellence within a player is the same across the board. Whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it. And that's true for male and female athletes. Now, the reason why I bring this up is this same topic made a lot of news during the UConn NCAA Women's Championship run. And shout out Paige, who gets drafted #1 as we're doing this program right now live. It's a known fact that Gino pushes his girls with the same intent. He says he always says it. I don't treat them any differently than I would treat the boys. Do you feel that some coaches, though, are afraid to go this hard, which ultimately limits their actual success?
I think it's, like you said, a really touchy, taboo topic to talk about. Why are we treating girls different than boys? There's so many different aspects to a male and a female athlete, which is true. The physical abilities are different, but and going back to the very first question, the overall want, desire, and passion shouldn't be treated any different. And I think when it comes down to it, the outcome that you want out of training or practice needs to be of that same intent that you would want in a game. And if you want to, go through training or practice half-assed, all of that kind of stuff, then that's what you're going to get out of games. Games aren't easy. So why should practice be? Why should training be? If you want to take the easy way out and just, coast through your practice, then expect that in a game. And whether you're a male or a female athlete, or a male coaching a female sport, or a female coaching a male sport, it shouldn't be any different. If you and your team have a shared vision and, a shared desire of an outcome, then how you train your team, it shouldn't differ per gender or anything like that. If your solid desire is to win or be competitive, that's how it should go in training and games.
I love it. It's so true. I mean, my assistant's favorite phrase was practice how you play. If you show up to practice and, like you said, if you half-ass it, you just go through the motions. And now there is, how familiar are, I'm from Philadelphia, but the infamous Allen Iverson effect, who Allen did not like to practice, but guess what? When he played, he was unbelievable. But listen, that is not the norm. Okay. But no, in all seriousness, it's 100%, because just sometimes it's muscle memory, right? I say it all the time. If you're lackadaisical on a pass in practice, well, guess what? Odds are you might be lackadaisical on a pass during the game, and that's going to get you a seat on the bench. And unfortunately, you have to go hard all the time, especially on these different levels. Now, we talked about as a coach, but what about when you get back to the recruiting element as we kind of close this out? Is there any, and I know you're early into this, but any particular success story as a recruiter that sticks out with you?
Yeah. So I was really fortunate to start working with a handful of athletes kind of right off the jump. Wasn't expecting it. I kind of dove headfirst into this social media thing, and which has been really cool to connect just with different people. But I actually got in contact with a former teammate of mine, current teammate in Israel. She's over there playing in the first division of a women's professional league over there. Now, the athlete that I was working with, she's 16, almost 17, playing at, the first division of a women's professional league. And she was an uncommitted senior when we started talking. So she will graduate high school in, I don't know, like 3 weeks. And we had some work to do, but she knew exactly what she was looking for, what she wanted. She just didn't know what to do. Where's the first step, how to start. Within the time that we started working together, I got to know a lot about her and her family, and exactly, what they wanted for her. Moving across the world was something that I could kind of relate to, but I'm from Canada, so it's kind of not the same, but I was still pretty far. And within 2 months, we had her committed on a full ride scholarship to play at a top 5 NAIA program. And that was really cool to help her through that process and reinforce even to myself that there's just so much to know, so much to learn, and it never ends. It's every single day. That's a really cool, early on success story that I'm super excited that I can share.
Again, you mentioned about the social media aspect. You're younger than I am. As we grow up and mature, it's, social media can be a great thing if you use it the right way. Right. And I put that in, whether it's my kids or people just use it the right way. It is such a powerful tool. It's like the internet, right? Like I wish I had the internet when I was a 16-year-old kid, and I had to go to the library and look at encyclopedias and use it the right way, man. It's a powerful tool. If you can use it the right way, it's fantastic. So I love that. It's a great story. Now, let me ask you real fast about the recruiting, as far as your former athletes yourself. Do you think more, as you get into this, that more former athletes should consider careers in recruiting?
That's a really good question. And I had to kind of reflect on my own teammates, of would they be a good fit? But I think everybody goes through their own experience, especially when it comes to the recruiting process. And then when they get to be a student athlete. There's going to be some that are going to have great experiences, and there's going to be some that aren't. And I think the more you can share about those experiences in a positive way that would help somebody else, could make you a really good fit as, a recruiter, a college scout. It's something that is obviously very niche based. It would have been nice if you played at the college level, gone through your own process, maybe coached here or there, even if it was at the youth level or anything like that. But it is a very fulfilling role, especially if you are, passionate about helping others. As a former college coach, that's what I did every day. I helped and I interacted with athletes and their families all the time. And the recruiting aspect of college coaching was my favorite part. So that was a really nice transition out of the college coaching world, and embracing something like this. And I think it is a good fit for former, college athletes to pursue or help their neighbor out or their little cousin that's trying to play baseball, whatever it is. The more knowledge that you can share, and again, going back to that relatability aspect, people want to hear from somebody who's done it. They don't want to talk to just a random person.
And that's true in every walks of life. I don't want a personality. I'm sorry. Not trying to be, I want somebody who's done it. Like, have you lived it? Have you understood it? This isn't just something I've read in a paper and giving you my opinion. No, I've lived it. I understand it. So I think it's definitely more powerful when it comes to, all right, this is going to be the money question here as we finish this up again. Make sure you follow Mackenzie on all these social formats. It'll be listed in the link. Her link tree will be in there for everywhere you can get in contact with her on Scout U, as well as social media on TikTok and Instagram. But last, your TED Talk right now, right? And you're talking to these young athletes are just starting out in their youth sports journey. Say, obviously they can't really think that much at 6 to 8. They're going by their parents. Let's say like 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old young athlete just starting out to really get that hunger. What's your advice to them as they start this journey?
Stay true to yourself and have fun while you're doing it. Those are the biggest things that I could share with any youth athlete. It's the most fun when you can be your authentic self and enjoy every single moment of it, because it goes by so incredibly fast. And then you get to be, old like us and we're on the sidelines and watching on TV. But when you enjoy it and you love it and you can be yourself while you're doing it, I think that is the best way to go, and the best, the biggest piece of advice that I could give any young athlete.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'll close on this. I'm going to pretend just so you can get everything that you have, get it out there. I am a parent or I am a 17-year-old high school kid. I'm looking to get recruited. If I want to reach out to you, how do I get to you? What's the process?
Email, DM, shoot me a text, whatever it is. Just reach out with any question, even if it's a, hey, what's up? I have this going on. I'm a pretty easy person to talk to. The first conversation is always the most awkward and uncomfortable, but you figure it out as you go. Reach out with anything you have. No question is small in the world of college recruiting, because something as small as you think it is could impact you in a big way, down the road. So ask early, start your process as soon as you can, reach out for help. Everybody thinks that they can do it all themselves, know all about it, all of that kind of stuff. But that's what I'm here for, to answer your questions and help you through it. So reach out. Let's set up a time to chat, just like this, face-to-face, virtual meeting, whatever it is. And, just have a conversation.
Just have a conversation. Again, Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining me. This has been fantastic. I mean, it really has. I continue to stay in contact, and I can't wait to get more success stories from you and try to highlight them as well. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. This was definitely the coolest thing that's happened to me in 2025 so far. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, you work hard, you deserve it. And again, as always, make sure you're following Mackenzie on all her social formats. Give us a follow at Fighting for Overtime. Follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. We're going to get out of here. Catch us next time on the next episode right here on Fighting for Overtime. Fighting for Overtime is a Rise and React media production. If you're looking to start a podcast, if you're looking to get some direction, hit us up. Let us know. We'll help you out there as well. Again, for everybody, enjoy your time. Memories of moments, and keep fighting that fight. Continue to fight in overtime to make your kid have the best experience that they can have when it comes to playing youth sports.